Welcome to Cochran and Bleckley County. My name is Scott Cox. I'm part of the Cochran-Bleckley County Board, the Chamber Board. I'm a board member there, and so I'll be somewhat of your MC for this evening, and we'll go from there. Really excited to see all the people out here getting ready to find out a little bit more about the candidates for the Georgia House Representative seat for District 144. We hope you got to spend some good time talking to the candidates during our social hour and get to know them a little bit more. Right now, I would like to recognize any of our local, state, elected or appointed officials. If you don't mind standing up so that we can recognize you. Thank you very much. Let's give them all a hand. Looks like we've got a lot of state representatives, people that are going up to Atlanta. You know, they only work 40 days out of the year, right? That's again another pastor joke, right? They only work on Sundays. That's not true, and we really appreciate our representatives and all that they do year-round. It's a year-round job, and we appreciate them. This event would not be possible without some of our sponsors, and I'd like to name a few of them. One is the Cochran Journal. Thank you to the Cochran Journal. ComSouth, powered by Hargrave. Middle Georgia State University. The Cochran-Bleckley Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Go Directors. Representatives from each of these entities have been working very hard to bring this event to you so that you can meet and get to know the candidates better. And we just thank you for those efforts. So let's give them a hand as well. We've got lots of people working for us tonight. Again, we've got sponsorships, but there's some people that have been working really hard today, and I'd like to recognize them as well. We have some Middle Georgia State University dual enrollment students that greeted you tonight. We thank you to them and their volunteer assistants. Walmart for the wonderful refreshments. I did get to eat a few of those things before we got started. I appreciate that. Rusty Lloyd, he's our chairman of our Chamber of Commerce, and he's doing the sound and all the PowerPoints that you see up here. And I saw him last week, and he was working on it last week, so he's been working on that quite a bit. So thank you, Rusty, and all the work that you do for us at the Chamber. We also have Dr. Brooke Miller. She's the Associate Professor in History and Political Science with Middle Georgia State University, and she will be our moderator for this evening. And so thank you for coming over this evening and helping us out there. So appreciate that. Very good. At this time, we would like to honor Mr. Epps for his service. And to do that, I'm going to bring up two officials from Cochran and Bleckley. One, the mayor of Cochran, Billy Yeomans, and our sole commissioner, Bob Brockman. And then Mr. Epps, if you don't mind coming up here as well, Representative Bubber Epps. All right, I have a plaque for Representative Epps, and it's an expression of appreciation to the Honorable James Bubber Epps. And this is what it reads. Georgia, Bleckley County. This expression of appreciation to the Honorable James Bubber Epps for his dedicated service to the citizens of Bleckley County as the member of the House of Representatives of the Georgia legislation. Whereas James Bubber Epps was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in 2008, beginning his term of office on January 1, 2009, and is diligently serving his constituents of the 144th District, comprised of Bleckley, Twiggs, and Wilkinson counties, as well as parts of Bibb, Houston, Jones, and Lawrence counties, and whereas in the House of Representatives of the state of Georgia, his responsibilities include serving as member of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, Small Business Development, Insurance, Natural Resources and Environmental Committees, Chairman of the Motor Vehicles Committee, Secretary of Transportation, and also on the Appropriations Subcommittee for Human Resources. And whereas James Bubber Epps has always been available to his local citizens and has been instrumental in securing funds for the various projects benefiting this area. And whereas James Bubber Epps is retiring from his term of office as representative of the 144th District effective December 31st, 2018, now therefore, as mayor of the city of Cochran and the sole commissioner of Bleckley County, we execute this expression of appreciation in behalf of the citizens thereof and wish you well in your future endeavors. The first day of October 2018, and is signed by Mayor Billy Yeomans and Robert Brockman, sole commissioner of Bleckley County. Yes, you do. Mr. Representative Epps, a standing ovation. We appreciate you, and we would like to hear a few words from you if you're willing to come and talk to us.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled and appreciative of this. It's undeserving. And I want you to know that Cochran-Bleckley County gave much more to our family than I think that we returned to you. It was an honor and a privilege. You were an integral part of our district, and it was always a pleasure to come and to meet and to listen. You made us feel welcome, and you provided us a stable base from which we could offer our services to you. Serving in the assembly is an experience you'll never regret or in any way look back with any negative thought on. It's truly a fraternity of men and women that you get to associate with, that become a part of your life. Doesn't necessarily mean you agree, but you find a gentlemanly way to navigate through the waters and to do what's best for this state. And that's one thing that I am so encouraged by in this local race for our replacement, is the level of professionalism and honor that these candidates have kept this race in. Over the last few weeks, Catherine and I have just kind of been glued to the television, really in a negative way, just amazed at where we carried our country as far as a cooperative attitude among our citizens. And thankfully, I don't think this resonates in this district. I applaud each of them. And I applaud you for coming out tonight and informing yourselves. I think the greatest contribution you could make to both of these candidates run for office is to attend these forums, to engage with them, and to hold them accountable for what their goals and objectives for this district is. Without a doubt, and I say this, I know in a selfish way, this was the best district in the General Assembly to represent. The people are true, patriotic, community-minded, and it's been a joy and a pleasure every hour that we have spent, not only in Bleckley County, but in House District 144. We thank you for this honor. It means more than I can express to you, but we're sincerely grateful and appreciative of your governmental leaders and your citizenry support, and never failing to keep us engaged and informed and aware of the needs and concerns of Cochran and Bleckley County. It was a joy and a pleasure to represent you and hopefully be a voice that you felt somewhat comfortable with us speaking forth on your behalf. So thank you. It's truly an honor, and we love Cochran-Bleckley County. I can assure you of that.
Now, you didn't do this all by yourself, right?
Not in any way. But I would ask her to stand up. She's emotional, so I don't want her wiping her cheeks. But I could not have done this in any way without Catherine's assistance. I tell her all the time, she should have been the elected official, and I should have been the one to help and support her. But she truly made our efforts for constituent services flow with ease. Being a retired educator, when we have groups that come up, and I think Superintendent Smith will attest to this, she made sure that they got the educational value from capital trips that were important to them, and it gave them a glimpse as to what state government was, and hopefully instill in some of them the desire to seek a political office one day. They're our leaders, and we're dependent upon them. But I truly thank Catherine for her efforts and support of my time in the legislature.
We appreciate your 10 years in service, and we thank you. And Ms. Catherine, thank you for supporting him and allowing him to do the things he needed to do, and all the wise wisdom that you gave him when he came and looking for advice. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, now we're down to the point where what you came for is let's meet our candidates. What I'm going to do is turn this over to Dr. Brooke Miller, and she will be our moderator, so the microphone is yours. And if we can have the candidates up here, Mr. Danny Mathis and Ms. Jessica Walden.
Good evening. While the candidates are making their way up onto the stage, I'll go ahead and make my opening remarks. Welcome to the Candidate Forum for District 144. We thank you for coming out and being here and supporting both Ms. Walden as well as Mr. Mathis in their quest to get the seat. Before we get started, there are a couple of things I'd like to mention. First and foremost, please turn off your cell phones. Check them. Make sure. Just put them on silent, put them on vibrate. If you need to make a phone call, that's fine. Please go out to the front lobby so that way we can go ahead and continue with the debate. Also, please make sure that you refrain from clapping after each particular answer. There'll be plenty of time for that at the end of the debate. Further, this is a little different. We haven't done this in a while, but we are accepting Meet the Candidate Forum questions. There is a table in the back right before you get to the lobby, and you will see Meet the Candidate Forum question sheets. So if you would like to do that, please fill one out, and then you can hand it to Mr. James Tidwell of the Cochran Journal. He'll be bringing them up. And lastly, here are your candidates. This is Mr. Mathis, our Republican candidate, and there is Ms. Walden, our Democratic candidate. This event is going to be filmed, as you can tell from the front, by ComSouth, powered by Hargray. They are going to film it. It should be up on ComSouth Channel 100 in about a week. Also, the questions and the information that you'll hear from the candidates tonight is going to run in the Cochran Journal on October 9th, if you're interested in picking up an edition, just to have a copy of the questions and their answers. As for me, as your moderator, if you do choose to submit a question, please make sure that it is not politically or racially motivated. As your moderator, I will not ask that question. So please make sure that your question is constructive and really gets to what your candidates can do for you in the district. Okay? Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, candidates, here we go. We'll start with you, Mr. Mathis. Mr. Mathis, introduce yourself by providing some background and why you decided to run for District 144.
Yeah, I'm Danny Mathis. I was born and raised right here in Cochran. Went to school right here. I married Ellen Purser Mathis. We have 3 children. I have Dana and her husband, Andy. I have Cal and his wife, Stephanie, and I have Bo and his wife, Ainsley. And I also have wonderful grandchildren. I have Asa, Emma, Kate, Sawyer, And I have Quinn, but I got another one on the way in a couple of weeks, Hayes. So I'm really excited about that. I worked at Mathis Funeral Home for over 46 years. Can y'all believe that? 46 years. And the other thing, I was a coroner here for 18 years. But the reason I'm running was the reason I said those grandchildren, those children. I got a birthday coming up on Wednesday. I'll be 64 years old. I feel like this country needs people to stand up for Christian moral values. I believe we need to get out here and work for the working people. We can't stand aside and let this country go down. We're too valuable to the world. I believe in a small way in District 144, that's what we have to do. We have to get in here, we have to get people to work, we have to have health care, we have to have jobs. We got to do those things. We got to care about the folks in this district, and I do. I've been here my whole life. This is a great area, it's great people, and I've gotten to meet a lot of great people. That's the reason I'm running. I want to bring Christian moral values back to government, and I want to keep it strong. And I want to work with the things that Mr. Bubber Epps has done, and I do appreciate what he's done. Every time I go to a meeting, they say, you got big shoes to fill with Mr. Bubber Epps. And I said, oh my goodness, I'll never fill them, but I'm going to keep trying, because he was a great representative for this district. But we got to carry it further. We got to stay strong. We got to stay morally. We got to have the religious freedoms that we have, and we got to support the Constitution, and we got to be pro-life. And that's what I am. Thank you.
Hold the applause, everybody. Calm down. Plenty of time at the end. Thank you, though. All right, Ms. Walden, same question to you. Introduce yourself and provide background information on why you decided to run for District 144, please, ma'am.
Well, I'm Jessica Walden. I live in Twiggs County. I'm going to give a disclaimer that my voice is normally not like this. We've been running our mouths a lot, and last week I turned 41 and completely lost my voice. And my husband said it was the best birthday I ever had since I was on strict vocal rest. So forgive me, I will probably have to reach for the water and cough. But as I said, I live in Twiggs County. I'm a business owner who make a living working on marketing strategies and written content and brand awareness for different clients. I also own a business called Rock Candy Tours with my husband, Jamie Weatherford. It's a Macon music history tour company, so I'm a tour guide on the side. And Jamie is a third-generation candy manufacturer in Macon. I'm a mother, a wife, a daughter. I'm a believer, and now I'm a state house seeker. I'm also a Democrat who isn't afraid to admit that I've been frustrated and disappointed with both sides of the aisle lately. I'm a Macon native, a Twiggs County resident. I spent my childhood in Jones, and I spent my 20s in Houston County. I'm a Christian. I've been christened in the Methodist Church twice. I read the Bible, and I take walks in the woods every day because that's where I feel closest to God. And I really do believe that the land that we found in Twiggs County was a prayer answered and one of the most beautiful places on earth. I'm the oldest child in my family, with an interesting childhood for sure. When your parents met backstage or married backstage at a Leonard Skinner concert with Ronnie Van Zant as my dad's best man, it was an interesting childhood to say the least. But it made me a little bit more of an overachiever, and I can go into all that about how I worked hard to be on the honor roll and served on everything I could because I just wanted to show that I could and to make my parents proud. I'm a hard worker, a problem solver, a fixer, and a doer. I strive to be a good doer and not a do-gooder. But what I want y'all to know is I'm not just another woman running for office. I'm a highly qualified candidate who has to work twice as hard to prove myself, as y'all saw in my primary. And as a woman, I'm used to doing that. My father once told me he felt like he could do a better job on the private sector of things, and I agree with him. But why leave the private sector in the comfort of that to make a difference? Because I believe we need more dynamic, diverse young people in office. I want to inspire people to run for office, and I want our representation to look like all of us in these 7 counties of District 144. So I decided to step up to the table and say, why not run? Let's run and let's take the season that Bubber Epps gave us, take the torch, run with it, make him proud of his legacy, and do it with honor and vigor and excitement and energy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question goes to you, Ms. Walden. Do you have a particular pet project or plan you would like to focus on to serve the district? For example, Speaker of the House David Ralston has been instrumental in securing funding for North Georgia, what used to be North Georgia College. Now it's the University of North Georgia, securing funding so they can make a Blue Ridge campus, an actual building rather than the strip mall they had been renting. Is there a pet project, something along those lines that you think you can direct funding to this district to get?
Well, one of the things that I've been working on recently in my professional career is bridging the digital divide. So I've actually worked on initiatives that bring people affordable access. And I do think as a freshman legislator, I'll be a strong voice and able to bring experience and network and connections with the work that I've done everywhere from Central Georgia to Washington, D.C. on that. But when it comes down to a pet project, I'm big on tourism. Right now I'm working with Jones County. I've been hired by the Georgia Department of Economic Development to work on a tourism development product plan so that they can show off the great assets that Jones County has to offer. Tourism, of course, is one of our biggest industries in Georgia. So I get really excited talking about our state, but then when we look at District 144, we have so much to give as far as natural resources. And even though it is a federal initiative, the Okmulgee National Park and Preserve Initiative will put the first national park and preserve east of the Mississippi in the state of Georgia in District 144. So I think that my knowledge and network on a state level working in tourism is something that I will be able to bring quickly to the table and be able to make sure we have the state resources that complement the federal effort to bring our national park here. Tourism has a fighting chance in this region, and there's no reason that we can't look at exactly what we're doing in Jones County and replicate it throughout our 6 other counties in this district. Of course, that comes down, that's job creation. That is putting money into our tax base. That is bringing people in who are hopefully our future residents. I always say that today's visitor is potentially tomorrow's resident in there. So strong support at the state level that I can provide. I really do believe I can bring the network with tourism. I know the programs in this area, and more than anything, it's the follow-up. How to follow up to see what's working, what's not working, and sharing our successes with the rest of the state.
Thank you, Ms. Walden. Mr. Mathis, the same question. Do you have a particular plan or any type of pet project that you think you can secure funding for this district for?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a pet project because the reason it is health care. We want to make sure that's a necessity that we all need to have. Rural areas getting slighted somewhat by some of the funding and some of the things that are going on with health care as we know today. I don't know if you pay your premiums, but when it costs a family of my age, at 2 people, it costs you $2,000 a month for basic health care. We have got to get that under control. And I want to see us work hard to do that. I also want to see us hard to get some rural development as far as hospitals and urgent care and EMS type work. That's my projects. Those are necessity projects. I love tourism. I want that to go, but we got to take care of the basic needs of our district. And basic need of our district is to make sure that our health care is strong. We have got to provide that. I see that all over. When you need a hospital room in Macon and you can't get it and have to air vac over to Augusta or Savannah or something, we got to work together to work out problems that are real. And once we get ourselves straightened out, then we can look at those other things to bring in things. But we have got to do the things that make us strong, and a good healthcare system will do it. And it'll also create jobs. We have one of the best little nurses programs right up here at Middle Georgia State University, and I'm so proud of that. And I see people go in and out of there, and that does jobs. That's jobs. That's jobs. And I want to see our schools get stronger and stronger and stronger in the forestry and trade jobs. And I want to see them get stronger and stronger in agriculture, in the cotton and peanut business, in the forestry business. That's what we got to do. These are real things that you and I are dealing with every day. Those are real projects. And we got to make sure that we offer that to folks. We got to make sure our education is strong from pre-K all the way up. I have a sister that's a preschool teacher. She's been doing it for over 40-something years, probably bumping way on up there. Those children need guidance. And a lot of people in this county have gotten that guidance through our school systems. And I just think so much that our school system here is good, and I've seen other places are good. But as projects, we got to work hard to bring things in here to help us with our health care, from children to us in the middle, and of course I'm in the other part now, and to the elderly. We have got to look after them. So health care, jobs, and education. That's the projects I'm going to be working hard on. That's the ones that I'm going to be there for you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mathis. Now, based on that answer, explain to all of us why that is your main priority and how that is in the best interest of the district as a whole.
Well, I think it's a basic need. If you think about it, if your health's not good, you're not any good at all. I was just talking to Mr. Walden a minute ago. When you get 70 years old and older, sometimes your health starts falling down. We have to adjust, and we have to make sure that we have the health care that we need so a person in a small rural community can have some basic health care. Sometimes in some of the county, we're blessed here in Bleckley County, we have a wonderful little facility. And then we're close to another facility that gives us a world-class treatment in Macon. But what I'm saying is we got to extend that to here. We got to make sure that our ambulance service and our EMS and our fire protection, all those type of things that provide us with good health care. We can save money on a lot of different things, but we need to make sure that we get health care under control. And when I say jobs, we have got to create. I want to see some things come back to this area that have gone overseas. And I think we can do it, and that's the reason I'm for that.
Okay. And the same question goes for you, Ms. Walden. Why do you believe that tourism and bridging that digital divide is going to be in the best interest of the district as a whole, and why is that really your priority?
Well, in order to have decent health care and in order to attract good jobs, you've got to retain residents. And going back to what I said, that tomorrow's visitor, or today's visitor could be tomorrow's resident, that's a big problem with our healthcare system right now, is that we cannot attract and retain our rural healthcare providers. Unfortunately, the rural hospital model is not working out in this economy. And so while I've learned that each of our counties share different issues when it comes to healthcare and jobs, there are the opportunities. And the bottom line is, in order to attract and retain our residents, we have to have decent jobs and a strong, vibrant community. So the question I'm often asked on the trail is, well, how do we keep our kids here? And so as a kid in District 144, you shouldn't have to leave here in order to pursue that job, that education, or have a decent quality of life. These opportunities in tourism, bridging the digital divide, create well-paying jobs in our district. And ultimately, these well-paying jobs in our district create strong communities that strengthen and support our largest employer here for District 144, and that's Robins Air Force Base. This is a priority of mine and a priority of a lot of us for Central Georgia.
All right, thank you. Ms. Walden, the next question is for you. Since you hit on Robins Air Force Base, let's go ahead and talk about the widening of Highway 96 in Houston County. How do you plan on getting additional funding from the Georgia TOT to complete the widening project through Twigs?
I wish I did not only have 3 minutes for this, because this is another way that the state can safeguard Robins Air Force Base from future wrecks. It is up to our legislators to remain firm and vigilant to stress the importance of a critical infrastructure project like Highway 96. We can talk about the SPLOST and what happened and why it failed, but the fact is it did, and we have to start over from the drawing board there. We know that Highway 96 needs to be widened to relieve congestion, enhance public safety, and more than anything, aid in economic development. It is a main vein to Robins Air Force Base. Not only is it a back entrance to the base, but it relieves congestion on the front end of getting into the base. But also, outside of that, it is critical for shipping access on I-75 and I-16 to the Macon Airport and to the Port of Savannah. As I tell everybody, why District 144 is so important is because in order to get from an airport to a seaport, you gotta come through our neck of the woods. So the logistics infrastructure that affects Central Georgia also affect the state of Georgia and the federal oversight of Robins Air Force Base. This is where my experience with regional collaboration comes into play. In addition to being critical to Robins, the argument can be made that increasing access to the port can benefit the state's entire economy. The Georgia Ports Authority and some friends that I have there who work there said that the focus has been placed on alignment and capacity of gates used by trucks to increase the efficiency and have direct access to 16 to get them to the port faster. So to find the budget, to find the funding, whether in the state budget, state bond package, or grants, state or federal, to widen the 96 is one option. The legislature passed $1 billion in funding plan last session. This will be my top priority as an upcoming legislator in the session, working with leadership on both committees and chamber-wide to know the importance of this project. And I will say I would fight like the Dickens to be on the Appropriations Transportation Subcommittee, chaired by Representative Shaw, in order to have a strong voice at that table. I also think it's critically important to work on a local level with our chambers like this, our development authorities throughout our 7-county region, to know that this isn't just a Twiggs County thing. This is something that affects all of District 144.
Thank you, Ms. Walden. Same question to you, Mr. Mathis. How are you going to get the money so that way we can complete that project and widen 96 through Twiggs County?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get up there and I'm going to get to know the folks in DOT. And I'm going to sit down with them and I'm going to show up these projects and I'm going to tell them that it needs to be done and how we're going to work it out. And I don't mean that in a smart way, but I think that's one way we can get it done. We're going to go up there, we're going to make our way into some of these meetings, we're going to make our way with these folks, and we're going to show them it's a viable need. Jessica pointed out some things and reasons that they are. Yes, I understand exactly how important Houston County is to this district. It's paid a lot of bills for all the folks here in this county working at Warner Robins Air Force Base, and there's other opportunities up there too. But I guarantee you one thing, if I get up there, we're going to go up there and we're going to work hard to make sure that is widened. For the simple reason, it puts 75 and 16 together. That's a great thing. It goes through Houston County, Twiggs County, it goes all the way over into Wilkinson County. And we can make sure that things go better. And that's what I want to do. I can't go do a wand, but I believe I can go up with experience I have with talking with people and working with people, but you got to show a viable plan. I don't want to go up and be like a pork barrel thing or a pet project or something you're talking about. I want to show them where this thing's going to work. And when I get up there with them, I believe those folks up there are good folks. I've met a lot of them. I have been to several meetings with some of them already. And we've talked about things like that. And that's how you do it. That's what I believe we can do. And you just go up there and work hard and honestly and put what we need done in this district and we'll get it done. And that's what I'm going to try to do for you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mathis. Now we're going to shift gears just a little bit. We're going to talk about some education issues. Right now, there are 10 counties in the state of Georgia that are allowed to have an additional 1 cent East Lost tax, which actually goes directly to the operational funds, not a capital fund, not to build any type of new schools, but actually to the operational fund. Within the district, only Houston County is allowed to collect that 1 cent. How do you feel, or would you support other counties within this particular district being allowed to collect that extra money for an operation fund, rather than just a capital fund?
Well, I'm all for it. What I think we need to do, if we want to put it to the voters, that they vote in this extra tax to go straight to the school boards. I was talking to a commissioner in one of our district areas today, and we were talking about the money that if we did get this 1% just for this capital stuff, we could do this by giving it straight to the board, the superintendent and the board of education. The reason we want to do that is that they can turn around and reduce property taxes. That's what we're all after. That way everybody's inputting in this thing. It's not just the property owners anymore. We're going to have people that every time they come through, put in a penny, and they're going to help us out with our school systems. And it will open them up to do things like be more fair with the salaries, be more fair with a lot of things within the school. So I'm absolutely for it. We got to push it, and what we got to do is make sure we can get it on the ballot. And if a district if a county wants to do it for their school and their education, I'm all for it. And I think that can be done. And that's what I'm going to work for. So I'm all for it.
Okay, same question to you, Ms. Walden. Do you support that extra 1% or that 1 cent sales tax that would go directly to the operating fund for other counties within the district?
So this particular local option sales tax, or LOST as we would call it, goes all the way back to 1982's General Assembly, and it's a unicorn for our state. It is something that Houston County was grandfathered in along with the 9 other counties, and it has been, no other county has been able to get it since then. So as you heard, the difference between that is the penny goes towards operational and not infrastructure. So that makes it different than the East Lost that we're used to, that just helped us do things like the beautiful new Twiggs County gym. Dollar for dollar, this loss also rolls back that mill rate. So yes, dollar for dollar, you would save on your property tax. Both the school district and the property owner benefit from this. In Houston County, it works well enough where they stay 18 months ahead. They're able to gather earned interest on the funds already collected. So I believe in better government, and I believe that we need to teach our tax dollars to work for us. And so that means the people deserve a vote on something like this, if it was able to be resurrected and come back. And it is not a one-size-fits-all for all of our counties. The piece is that rollback. And so some of our counties would not be able, it just depends on who's the property owner and is it coming from internally or externally, the sales tax that's being collected. So I think that it is rare, not a one-size-fits-all, but of course in believing in better government and teaching our tax dollars to work for us, I would certainly give people the opportunity to decide how they want to be taxed and how much they are taxed. But again, we need to know the majority of where that burden will fall on the taxpayer. The role of the state representative is to understand the needs of 7 different boards of education, and that's a lot. Talking to other state representatives, they're like, wow, you have 7 different boards of education to talk to. And we know that these are varying levels and issues and opportunities throughout our 7 districts. So being able to work with the local school boards and hear their needs, opportunities on that. And one of the things that I have been able to learn on the trail is gathering a group of kitchen table advisors, of teachers who are in the classroom every day and can really give that first person perspective on that. And so yes, this could help pay for expenses for our school teachers, and sounds great. But again, it would need to be resurrected from something that was put in place in 1982.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walden. The next question starts with you. You guys have both already kind of talked about healthcare, but there is no doubt that we have limited access in a number of the counties that you will be representing. And how do you plan to secure more funding for quality healthcare? Not just healthcare in general, but we need to make sure that it's quality healthcare that is actually going to work for the constituents in the district. How do you think you can try to get more money for these rural services? And in particular, is there anything you think you could do regarding women's health services?
So not only are we short on health care, but we're short on time to be able to talk about this. This House Bill 769 went into effect this July, which, among other things, provides funding for the creation of the Rural Center for Healthcare Innovation and Sustainability, which is a big word, but that means incentives for healthcare provider talent acquisition. So going back to that, being able to attract and retain our healthcare talent. In District 144, we have a hospital shortage, we have a nursing shortage, we have a primary care shortage, we have a pediatric shortage, we have OB and gynecological deserts, and again, the primary part is what's hurting us a lot. Bleckley Memorial defies the odds with a lot of this, but while it works, it would not be viable in our other counties. So we've got to grab the bull by the horns on this and get creative. Something that I heard today that blew my mind, Tolliver County, the smallest county in Georgia, grades K through 12 are all in one building, and they've created their own hospital network to serve their county in the school that's already serving K through 12. And it's a phenomenal story of 1,600 people who decide they can't wait on the state to get it together, or the federal level, for local health care. Where I look to is Dr. Gene Sumner at Mercer School of Medicine. They just launched a pilot program in Plains, Georgia, thanks to help of former President Jimmy Carter, which brings the primary care back to the rural counties. And Mercer has pledged that, going back on that talent retention piece, Mercer Medicine says that if a person from a rural county goes to Mercer Medicine, they will forgive their tuition throughout the course of pursuing their medical degree, and they will help them on the business side set up their clinic. And if they commit to continuing to serve that rural area, they will be given their clinic, and that loan will be forgiven as well. It's innovative, it's creative, it's right down the road from us, and I've leaned on Mercer Medicine to a lot of guidance on this. We need to bring our federal tax dollars home. I believe it's important that every Georgian has a health care card in their pocket from the moment they're born. While every dollar that Georgia invests in health care, the state can receive 9 more federal dollars. That means we keep $3 billion a year meant to pay for Georgia's health care coverage, and we ship our tax dollars to California and New York when we must cover our indigent care of our own. Women's health care, y'all, we have the highest infant mortality rate in the state of Georgia right here in District 144. That means that it is harder to deliver a healthy baby in our district than it is in Cuba. And so we have got to bring the primary care provider, attract our OBGYNs back to this area. We got to also fully fund our health clinics who have implemented tele-OB, which means that women can get some of the care and keep them engaged with their primary care so that their first prenatal appointment's not in.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Walden, we've run out of time. I'm sorry, talk fast. Okay, Mr. Mathis, it is the same question for you. What are you going to do to try to secure more funding to bring quality health care to this rural district? And is there anything in particular you think you can do for women's health care services?
Well, you know, when the rural health care started deteriorating in Georgia, I was an EMT running on an ambulance through a funeral home. And Medicare and Medicaid changed some rules to rural Georgia and the rural hospitals. They only cut, you know, what they would pay for an indigent care to 33%, and they were paying the big hospitals 100%, and they just went under. They just went under. They couldn't compete. But I think they found out that they overwhelmed the big hospitals. When you go and have your surgery at a big facility, when you can have a primary care to take care of that person when they have that type of surgery and come down here and get in a swing bed and they can have physical therapy down here is good, they're home, they're local. I think we just have to go from the federal level that was mentioned. We have to get them straightened out to let them know that rural health care is important, that it's important for all America, not just in big cities, for all Georgians. So when I looked at that, and when you had the abuse and you had people that were misusing these funds, you had it from doctors, from pharmacists, you had it from all different people who were milking the system. And when you have that kind of problem, you people lose. So what we need to do is we need to cut the fraud. We need to get back to basics. We need to be honesty. We need to make sure that we work hard and we get this rural development, and we need to do that with communications, we need to do that with cell phones, we need to do that with internet. We get people back in here. If we don't provide these healthcare services, all the other things that have been talked about, getting folks to come in and stay, they're not going to come if you don't provide healthcare. They're just not going to do it. But I want to make sure that we work on the federal level, we work on the state level, we work on the local level to make sure that we work hard to provide people with the basic health care that they deserve. And I think we can do that. I'm for all health care. I realize that we have probably a large rate of babies that are being lost. We have a terrible drug problem in this state. We have terrible young people having babies. And it's a terrible problem. I've dealt with it. I've dealt with it in my own business. I dealt with it back when I was on the ambulance. I know the problem. We have to educate people to take care of themselves. We have to help them. We have to have folks here that want to do these type of things. If you'll look at the way doctors are regulated now, everything that they do, you know, go get a test right now. You got to go get a regular x-ray, then they'll move up to a CAT scan, then they'll move up, but you got to go through the channels. And all that needs to be streamlined somehow. I think we're wasting money. They're trying to correct the corruption, but they're causing a problem. And I want to see us turn it around. I'm for all health care. I'm for young babies, you know that. For elderly, you know that. I'm for all health care, and definitely women's health care. We got to look at it. I'm all for it, and I thank you so much. Am I out of time?
Yes. That's okay. All right, just as a reminder, if you have any questions for the candidates, again, the table is in the back. Please make sure you submit your questions to Mr. James Tidwell of the Cochran Journal. He's in the back, and he'll bring me the questions. Now, Mr. Mathis, this question goes to you. This one specifically talks about rural development and economic development, because one of the things that a lot of cities and towns in this particular area are struggling with is crumbling infrastructure, specifically crumbling downtowns. Let's be blunt about it. How do you plan to address that issue, since it's a major factor in attracting businesses and economic developments? It's actually one of the telltale signs. Anybody in a chamber of commerce will tell you if you drive through a downtown and there are no businesses or it doesn't look appealing, the company's probably going to keep driving through. So how do you think you're going to address that for cities like Cochran and places in Twiggs County?
Sure, we have that problem here for sure. And I know Jeffersonville does, and I know Wilkinson County does. I don't know that I'm so proud of my good friend Kathy Christian's here, and it's wonderful to ride through Dublin right now and see all the economic development going downtown in the old town section. And that's a wonderful thing. To me, it's about a 2 or 3 part thing. Number one is you got to get people to come back to these towns. One way we can do that is get out here and make sure they got internet services that's top of the line anywhere you're at. If we can do that, I think people that work out of home and do things like that, they'll come here, because we do have some school systems in this district that are very, very good. So I would hope we could get that cellular phone. Even where I live here in Bleckley County, I have to have a certain thing on it called an M-cell to make sure I even have phone service where I live. So we need to make sure that that is taken and people will move back, because we have something to offer them down here. I'm particularly fond of this school program that we have, and I know Superintendent Smith's back there. We have a wonderful school system, and people won't be here in this school system. But here's what I want to do with that. To secure our local governments have to get involved. Maybe we can give some incentives to people that already have businesses, some incentives to grow, to do some frontage on their buildings. Don't always just go out and try to give it to the folks that you want to come in, but help the folks that are already here. Give them some incentives to do things that maybe create a job or two. Then you have to have the landowners that own the buildings down there. They have to be involved. Like you say, you got the local and you got the county governments, and they got to get involved. You got an industrial authority. We got the Chamber of Commerce. Those folks are what we need to do. But here's the thing. The city council, the commissioner, we all got to be on the same, the board of commissioners, we all got to be on the same page. We all got to be on the same page. We got to be working for one thing. And I still don't want to forget the folks that's already in business. Give them some incentives to grow. But I think one of the problems we have a lot of times is when you have these small businesses like that, a lot of young folks just want to work a certain amount of time. But when you're in a family small business, it takes a lot of time. And you have to do that. So that's a part of the problem. But maybe we can change that by giving some incentives and getting our counties and our cities to go forward to see if we can attract folks to come in here, and I hope we can do that. That's a hard job, because I know this county has been trying to do that. I know they have.
Yes, they have. They definitely have. Ms. Walden, same question to you. How do you think you can help these cities that have crumbling infrastructure, specifically crumbling downtowns? How do you think you can help them revitalize that downtown and attract businesses?
Well, so this was a hallmark of my career in my 30s, is working in downtown development. So this is my wheelhouse. And I will say, I was one of those young people who worked my tail feather off on downtown development. And I'm very excited over the opportunity to take what I learned and didn't work and apply that knowledge to District 144, which is multiple cities with historic downtowns and good bones, as we like to say. And there are 5 points to a successful downtown. The basics: is it clean, safe, and branded? Connectivity, making streets more walkable and bikeable. Environment, make it green, but with public green spaces and replaning the public realm. So add some flowers, y'all. The look, market small spaces to small businesses and recruit and fill those retail niches. And then the 5, reinforce the arts and add events to the counter. That's the 5 points of the plan, but here's how you pay for it. Public-private partnership is key on that. I currently work for 2 foundations who are deeply invested in downtown development, and they fund nonprofit efforts that help downtowns grow. But the state is also helpful here with the state historic tax credit. There is no reason that Macon, Georgia does the most with tax credits than anywhere else with the state, and we've seen what it's been able to do for downtown Macon, and we know how to use them. So I do believe that we can use these incentives as effectively as Macon, and on the state level support and bolster these state tax credits towards historic preservation in our downtown communities. These are huge incentives for potential investors. It makes private investment not only attractive, but it also makes it attractive and possible for the residents. This in turn strengthens our tax base. I'm also a big believer in the Main Street programs. Dublin has had great success with that. Main Street programs are described as economic development in the context of historic preservation. So it really does retain and enhance that character and charm that creates the downtowns that return us to the gospel of Main Street. I would continue working with the Georgia Department of Economic Development with film and heritage tourism opportunities, going back to that tourism piece, that capitalize on the state's momentum right now. How many of y'all have been to Juliet, Georgia and eaten at the Whistle Stop Cafe? That was filmed 27 years ago, and they are still reaping the benefits of their downtown that movie put there. Finally, we can work together to consider low-interest loan programs that help fix facades and also help with the gap financing. Because these small commercial spaces have proven time and time again that they are incubators and headquarters for mom and pop businesses that which all of our community does indeed thrive on.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Walden. Kind of continuing with attracting businesses, one of the things that both of you have talked about is attracting jobs. And given the presence of all of the different corporations that have come in, as well as Robbins, one of the things where we see most of the job growth is really for trade jobs, but it's kind of difficult for some of them to really fill them. Do you have a plan for the region regarding these trade jobs and how you think you can bring in more development regarding those types of jobs, those skilled laborers?
Well, I'm married to a candy manufacturer in agribusiness. So not only do I need to have a plan, but I hear him talk all the time about being able to have a skilled workforce that can get in there and make a American-made candy business continue to thrive. So I hear that this is constantly one of the things that he struggles with. And he also has a great solution where Crown Candy is one of the largest employers of second chance employees from the Georgia Department of Corrections. And so that is one thing, when they struggle with skilled labor, they've been able to find an amazing workforce there. But it is an absolute priority to create and find pathways for technical college students for their training and real-world experience. Demanding these pathways is so important right now because it's just like any other class. If there's not enough people to fill that pathway, they close it. So we need to be aware of our pathways that will benefit our local workforce. And the dual enrollment setting, these college/high school kids who are here working today, allows that necessary classroom and hands-on training that are giving them an idea of what their future looks like. Apprenticeships are also important. Apprenticeships faded away. There was liability in them. There was a lot of disinterest. Apprenticeships are coming back. I have a friend whose daughter was not the academic scholar like her twin brother, but she began taking welding classes, earned an apprenticeship, and now she'll graduate high school making more money than any of us as a female welder in the state of Georgia. So I do think that it's so important that students who always don't learn the same have a talent and ability to contribute to our workforce that varies throughout this region. It's just important on the state level that we work to ensure graduates are meeting the region's work demands and that these graduates are ready to work and not just temporary hires. Access to the state resources and having the knowledge and network on these resources, everything from the Hope Career Grant at our technical schools, Georgia's Quick Start program. We have to make sure our district has every tool in our tool belt to be able to fill these skill demands.
Thank you, Ms. Walden. Mr. Mathis, you're in a trade job. How are we going to get kids in trade jobs and how are we going to fill these jobs?
Well, it's motivation. We got to start them young, get them motivated on how to work. You got to work for a living. Nobody owes you anything, and I know that's hard to say, but that's the way I was raised, and I think most folks in this district were raised that way, that you have to work. And not all of us, like Miss Jessica said, are smart. I wasn't one of them. You have to learn how to do some kind of trade, but there's nothing wrong with being a trade guy. Let me tell you something. If you could finish carpenter right now, you could have any job you want building homes. If you're a plumber or electrician, you can do what you need to do. If you're a small engine repair, you can work on diesels, you work on tractors, you work on cotton pickers, you can do. I think we need to get in our high schools. I think we need to get in our middle schools, and we need to start teaching these folks what farming is about and educate them. Educate them how to be foresters. Educate them on what to do and how it is. And you don't have to have the biggest and the most expensive equipment. You can take what you do and put some hard work and some hours in it, and you make some money. That's what I think we can do. We got to get on the basic education of showing these kids that you got to work. And I believe they are. There's some wonderful people around here. I see one or two over here right now that work all the time. I go in a place that they are. They know what to do. And we just got to teach them. We got to teach them as parents. We got to teach them as grandparents. We got to teach them as school leaders. We got to teach them as teachers. We got to do that as a community. I think we can do it. I think we can get in these schools and start showing these kids that it's good to be this kind of guy or this kind of girl. We can do these things. There's all kind of opportunities out there. All kind of opportunities. And I just wish we'd start there. We move up to the VOTEC and we show these folks how to go and work hard. That's the key. That's the key, is be passionate about what you do and find your niche. But I look right now, it's hard in any place to get someone that wants to do a skilled worker. I've been marveled at watching somebody can do numbers on building and do crown molding and shoe molding and painting and things of those natures. Those things, sometimes it looks like we're losing those. We got to give them incentives to do them, and it starts in the school. So I'm all for that. We just educate them. Just love them, educate them, show them how to work, and get them out there doing it.
All right, well, building on that, let's be honest. This entire district has a lot of farmers, don't we? Do we have any out there today? Yeah, I thought so.
Right now.
Yeah, if they're not working right now, they can. But that being said, Mr. Mathis, this one goes for you first. One of the major concerns really kind of pertains to how you can help these farmers get subsidies. How can you help them secure funding from the state and federal levels? And really kind of get their hand in the pot too, so that way farmers here in District 144 don't feel like they've been slighted or feel as though they've kind of been looked over.
Well, I agree. Cotton, farming business is the biggest industry in this state. We know that. But what I want to make sure we do this is that we get America on the same playing field as the rest of the world. And I think we're working toward that. Our farmers are smart enough to grow the crops. They're smart enough to get it to market. We just got to be fair when they get it there. It's got to be good. We got to do that. We got to help them. We got to help them. You know, when we do the illegal immigration thing, we got vegetable farmers down here around Tifton. We got to make sure that we can help these workers get legal. We got to streamline immigration, and we got to do it because we need to protect America. If you don't have law and order, you have chaos, and that's what we got right now. So what I'm saying on that end, they got to have folks that want to work and pick those vegetables. You got to have people that want to work and do the things that needs to be done in the farming business. Cotton and peanuts, I want to work for subsidies in anything in areas. Anything that we can do to give a farmer a break, we need to do it. And we need to teach young farmers. I was talking to one the other day. He said, Mr. Danny, if I can do 2,000 acres and I have me 2 good helpers and we're willing to work, we can make it. We can make it. He may not have the new John Deere roll type cotton picker, but he can get him a little a 6-row or whatever, and he can get him a bowl buggy, and he can get him a packer, and he can go to town. Told me he could save $80,000 alone just picking his cotton. There's real ways to do it, but we got to educate them on how to do it, and we got to help them. We got to help them with the workforce. We got to help them with the many things that are out there for these farmers, but they can do it. But the first thing I want to do is say we got to get us back on the same playing field as everybody else. We got to let free market work. These farmers are smart enough to do it. I know they can do it. And I know all these folks can do it. And it'd be wonderful if we could bring a peanut butter factory right here in this district. It'd be nice if we can get another cotton mill back in here, like it used to be, L&H shirt factory, Opelika. It just looks like we could do that. And if we can get playing on the same field, I believe that we can bring those companies back and we can get all these jobs and this work that we need to do. The people, these farmers in this area we're in this district, they know what they're doing. We just need to give them the tools to get it done, and I hope that we can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis. Ms. Walden, same question for you. How are you going to give the farmers in this district access to the markets, and how are you going to make sure they get their share of the subsidies to bring that agribusiness back here to District 144?
Well, access to the market is important for my family's business with Crown Candy. I bought some of Crown Candy's peanut brittle with Georgia grown peanuts in it. It's in the back of the room right now. We also do chocolate clusters full of Georgia pecans and peanuts. And so Crown Candy works through the distributors, and it's about access. And I built my entire platform on access. I recently returned from a farm tour down in Moultrie, Georgia. And there's two concerns that I heard down there that I also hear up here, because you got to remember, we're not just in Bleckley County. We do also have forestry to think about and the surrounding farm gates of our 7 counties. But what I'm hearing is the same. Farmers are concerned about labor and they're concerned about regulation. And those two things have to be addressed at the state level to bring that relief that is needed. Now, when it comes to relief assistance, when we talk about natural disaster, drought, water issues, those different things, I have heard that it is so cumbersome to apply for at times, and the paperwork is so extensive. Again, let farmers be farmers, let teachers be teachers. But sometimes that is so much that it's not worth applying for. And I totally get that, because I've worked on grant projects like that. By the time you get done reporting, what you get back from it has spent a lot of your time and profit on that. So the biggest thing the state can do also is talking about that, what Danny said, the global market on this. Our farmers need to make sure that their access to the markets is kept up through the upkeep, support, and growth of the Georgia ports and the transportation access via both the port and rail, going back to that Highway 96 piece. It is clear, I went line item by line item. 144 is missing out on the biggest economic engine in Georgia for manufacturing and agriculture. Going county by county, we are not balancing out our imports and exports. Bleckley, we are importing more than we export. Twiggs County gets 0 on both of those. So it is important to work with our federal elected officials to make the Farm Bill, which is still currently in limbo, and farmers don't know the answer to that right now, that impact local growers to keep Georgia farmers competitive and succeeding in the global market. The other thing that we need to do on a state level is make sure that UGA and Fort Valley State University and our county extension offices have the latest information on growing crops that produce the high yields, and we can get the most volume out of our peanuts, cotton, and our other farm industries. Oh, and I just want to say I'm very grateful for the resources of the Georgia Farm Bureau and our Department of Agriculture in helping us support our #1 industry.
Thank you, Ms. Walden. Now we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit because you guys have given some questions. So we're going to go over some of the questions. Since Ms. Walden answered the last one, Mr. Mathis, you'll go first. This one has to pertain to education, right? What are your plans to keep Middle Georgia's youth here when they decide to continue their education? How do you make sure they actually go to school here and that they come back here afterwards?
Well, we just got to give them reasons to come back. And I, as this new technology age has come about, I think if we can get where people have access, you know, when I first heard this several years ago, I thought to myself, well, that's not really something that's viable. Until I moved to the country, you don't realize how much we depend on the internet, and you don't realize how much you depend on a cell phone. And you think, well, golly, that's not something that you think about bringing people back to rural areas. Well, think about this. Back in the 20s and 30s, there was no rural electric. All the cities had some power, but counties didn't have power until they ran it out there. But when you started running it out there, all of a sudden, people started going back to the country. So what I'm saying is, if we get the infrastructure that we need for the telecommunications, with all the things that we need, we get the internet down here where people can plug in everywhere they want to move. Some of us like to be secluded. There's nothing wrong with living in the country. I won't have too much big deal living in town. But if we get that settled, we get the telephones where they work all the time. People come back here, I think they'll want to stay here, and I think they can do that. And that's what I hope we can do, is we can get that infrastructure here to bring these people back to these rural areas where they'll go to work and they'll stay here, because we have some great attributes. I've seen folks that's moved off and come back, especially when they had children and they put them in some of these school systems. They know they're loved, and that's what we need, and they know they're taught well. And so that's what I hope we can do. We can catch up with technology, get the lights on out there, and move forward.
Middle Georgia State University, just throwing that out there. And Ms. Walden, same question to you. How are you going to get Georgia's youth to attend college and stay here in the Middle Georgia area, not just for college, but even to settle?
Well, and that is one of the greatest things about District 144 is you can go from pre-K all the way up through college and never have to leave the district. So you don't have to leave here in order to pursue a comprehensive education, but what is waiting for you after graduation? And my simple answer to that is we need new leadership. We need more young people stepping up and serving. We need more dynamic, diverse, and inspirational leadership in the post-digital age that knows what we're talking about when we talk about a digital divide that keeps creative entrepreneurs from being able to create or small businesses able to have access to a global economy. Being a leader in the post-digital landscape, which is a fancy way to say I knew what life was like before the internet and then I knew what life was like after the internet. It's about inspiring to keep our youth engaged and connected, and we need to have more youth at forums just like this, and I see some back there who I appreciate and admire immensely. We need to leverage technology the best way we can. And y'all, internet is not just a broadband infrastructure thing. That's not a one-size-fits-all issue. Over there in Wilkinson, Mayor Ken Turner will tell you that some of the things that the state wants to do will not necessarily work for Wilkinson, for Gordon. But when we look at the affordability and access to the internet, it is like running water at this point. And then we need to be able to manage the risk that we're willing to take on our young people. And that is one piece of it, is that, you know, we need to believe in them, and we need to give them something to believe in. And I had somebody on the trail get right in my face and look at me and said, what are you gonna do to keep young people here? And I looked back at him and I said, what are you gonna do too? Because the only way we can do that is by working together on that. And then of course, the only way we can do that is if we encourage collaboration. And collaboration is working on a 7-county regional level. It is working with former leadership. It is working with current leadership. It is being willing to pass that torch during the season of change and get somebody who is exciting and dynamic and is willing to tell the story of rural Georgia, and that we're not just a dying rural area, but we are in fact an invigorating, creative, and in the center of everything place. And so the simple answer to that is let young people, encourage young people to run. Don't try to get in the way of their leadership. And what I tell all the young people is put your head down and run. Run for something and believe in this place, because we believe in you.
Thank you. All right, so next question. This is, these are two different questions. I'm gonna try to combine them because it has to do with healthcare and about expansion of healthcare. Specifically, how would you vote? Because the state of Georgia, of course, gets to vote on extending Medicare and extending Medicaid to help with different health care issues, because a lot of Georgians do not have health care. It is definitely a problem here, not just in Middle Georgia, but across the state. So the question is, and we'll start with you, Ms. Walden, would you vote to extend or expand Medicare and Medicaid?
Yes, I would vote to expand Medicaid. I hear everybody that it is difficult to afford health care. Our premiums are going up every day. The gap, though, between those who can't afford health insurance and those who can't qualify for our federal assistance to buy health insurance is very real, and it's very much affecting this district. Over 5,000 people in this district, over 240,000 Georgians right now are falling in that gap, and 80% of our farmers fall in that gap. So we're talking about these are hardworking people who are not able to get access to health care that they need, and they could literally lose the farm over it. Going back to the fraud piece of it, this is evolving. States have traditionally relied upon this pay and chase model. Well, other states who are successfully expanding Medicaid are being able to collect on the front end and are finding innovative ways that fraud is not a thing. This is about, and you gotta remember, y'all, we pay for it either way, because we are already sending our tax dollars, our federal tax dollars, to California and New York by not extending Medicaid. And we're also paying for indigent care. So if we want to be double taxed, then we just keep on the same old. It's going to keep working. But I do believe that we got to extend Medicaid, and I'll say it again, everybody should have a health insurance card in their pocket from the moment they're born. It is part of decent quality of life. It will reinvigorate our healthcare system, and it'll also bring jobs to our region.
Okay, Mr. Mathis, same question. If you were elected to the State House, would you vote, not just for a Medicaid expansion, but even for a Medicare expansion? Would you vote to extend that?
Well, I don't know. I hadn't got there. We asked that question, Jessica. We was asked that question on close-up too, and about Medicare expansion. I told them then that we got to look at to see what exactly it is. I'm not going to just say I'm going to go up there and vote for Medicare expansion and then Medicaid. I really don't know, because in the bottom line, somebody's going to have to pay for it. And whether we give it from the child to the elderly or who we give it to, we got to make sure that we know what we're giving to them. Because here's the thing: if we give out something, it's sure harder to try to take something back if that's not what we need. We need to get up there and examine this thing. I know it all sounds good that everybody have all this and everybody have that, but you have to work. You know, funeral directors fit in that too. That's not being able to get health insurance that's affordable. It's a lot of money. It costs a lot of money for us to do that. So I want to get up there and work to bring things down where we can make it affordable for folks and put people back to work. And then if we put people back to work, we won't have as many people on the programs that we have, so that we won't have to look at funding this thing. But I know there's a lot of fraud in Medicaid. I know there's a lot of fraud in it, and we need to look at ways to try to stop that. But I'm not going to stand here and say that I don't want to make sure that we don't take care of folks that can't take care of themselves. It's the folks that can take care of themselves but want this because they don't want to work. And I want folks that want to work, and I want folks that want to try to work. But yeah, you know, I'd have to look at it. I'd have to look at it and see if it's something that we really need to do, because we tried program after program that might not have worked, and then we're still stuck with that program. And I just have to look at it.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to switch gears just a little bit and hopefully give a little lighter answer. One of the questions that was submitted was, what has been the most rewarding part of your campaign experience so far? So, Mr. Mathis, what have you found to be the most rewarding?
Well, I tell you what, we have some wonderful people in this district. I've been from top to bottom. I have met some good people, and I tell you the thing that's impressed me the most. A lot of the folks that I've met, they have the same values that you and I have. They have the Christian moral values. They want to stand on the Constitution like I believe that this country needs to do. This country is being attacked by a group of folks that want to change us to a socialist nation. And if we don't stand up with Christian morals and values that this country was founded on, we're going to be in trouble. I'm running because I believe that I can bring these Christian moral values and honest principles back. Not to say that some of the folks that are up there now that don't do that, because I know they were. I know Mr. Bubber Epps was, and I know there's several other people there. But we have to keep a group of people up there, and I know I'm not the youngest chicken in the hen house. I understand that, but I have a desire, and I also have the commitment to do it because I care about this country, I care about this state, I care about this district. Because if we crumble, y'all, it's going to be devastating to the rest of the world. This is serious. This vote this next time is serious. We have to get out here and we have to work hard, and we've got to get back to the moral values that we have. We have got to be a pro-life nation. We have got to be a nation that loves one another and that will work. We got to do the truth, and we got to do it with grace. That's what I want to do. That's what we got to do. And this country has got to stand strong on its values that we were raised on and the way it stood. And that's Christian and moral and honest principles.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis. Ms. Walden, same question. What have you found to be the most rewarding part of the campaign experience so far?
Well, I think grace is a great way to sum it up. Now, I've got some good war stories working door to door. I've been chased by a rooster and 3 pit bulls, not all at once. The pit bulls were all together, but the rooster was on his own. I don't know which one I was more afraid of. But when you talk about grace and you talk about the South, they go hand in hand. And you want to talk about getting to know Jesus a lot more, go door to door with me and visit the residents of 144 who have to make tough decisions like, do I turn on my oxygen tank, or do I get money together for the grandkids, and do I have a grocery store to go to? And that's where I found grace, was on this trail. And I would say that door, knocking on doors and meeting people throughout the district, which hasn't stopped for me since March, because as you know, I had to keep running. I was in a runoff, I was in a primary, a runoff, and now we go on in November. But on all those hard days, I remember the people that invited me in their home, and I sat down on the couch with them, and they'd never seen a politician before. And at first I was like, please don't call me a politician yet. But they were just glad to talk to somebody. And they were glad to share their hope and inspiration for this area. And these are hardworking people. These are not people, this is the longest job interview of my life. And you don't get this job by bashing your employer. It's the people of 144 who are going to hire somebody to do this job. And these are hardworking people, and these are resilient people, and these are hopeful people, and these are people who believe in a future, the same future that I have for my son. So I would say I have never felt closer to God than running on this race and being able to knock on those doors and visit with residents and go to church every Sunday with Richard Little in the back, who has his own story of grace after surviving a near fatal car accident and experiencing, we've probably been to 30 different churches. And at first I said, that's so weird to me. I don't feel like marketing in a church, but thank God for that church, because every Sunday I'm able to restore my soul by worshiping with different congregations and people who come from different walks of life from me and who worship different from me and who don't look like me, but who share their same hope and love and passion and creator. And so I think that's been the best part of all this, is just the experience, and I'll never forget it. It's been the best job interview of my life for sure.
Thank you. The next two questions kind of go hand in hand. They are about educational funding. So we'll start with you, Ms. Walden. This is kind of I'm going to make it a two-part question. First of all, there's a constitutional amendment proposed for a broad distribution of sales tax proceeds among public and independent schools. So the question is, do you believe that that is a good idea in the current system? And kind of building on that, how do you feel about vouchers for public school, for private schools, instead of just, kind of that charter school system?
Well, this is a tough question, and it's one that's definitely out there, one that which the General Assembly will continue addressing in next year's session. The main thing is I believe that our public schools deserve every bit of funding that we can give them. And fully funding QBE this year, Representative Epps and others who I see in the audience, that was an amazing move, because that was a bipartisan effort. And even though it wasn't the funding that we've had in the past, it was at least sending a loud message that even in the talk of charter schools and vouchers, that we are still going to fully fund our schools. So I think that is priority on it. As far as the charter school piece goes, I am not comfortable, and I don't support the idea of the privatized model of charter schools. When it is a nonprofit model, I think that it can be successful, and I think that our school systems can work together, and it creates vibrant communities that keep active and engaged parents and grandparents with their child's education. So I attended 12 years of Christian school in Macon, Georgia. It was the most amazing education that I have to thank my father for working so hard to provide for me and my sister. And as he said, my dad was in the music business, and he said, you got to get church from somewhere. So I think it's a good investment that I can send you to school where you get to worship and have a prayer said to you before math tests and all the other things that I gathered from that. I think instead of looking at vouchers, I'm interested in the tax credit piece and preserving the fact that if parents, if tax credits can be leveraged so that it takes some of the burden off for those who choose to put their child in a private school, I think that's worth talking about. The main thing is we've got to fully fund our public schools. And as far as the broad distribution
between public and private.
Again, we've got 7 different school districts. We have 7 different tax bases to pull from. We have different needs and different opportunities. And on top of all that, Twiggs County has the highest graduation rate in the state of Georgia right now. And I think that is an amazing opportunity that we need to make sure that schools who are working hard to have these numbers that we can brag about and tell the story of are able to get just as much funding from the state. And I'm not talking about increasing y'all's property tax. I'm talking about making sure that, again, we teach our tax dollars to work for us at the state level so that our local schools here in District 144 are getting everything they need to get the job done and to be some of the best school systems in the South.
Thank you, Ms. Walden. Okay, same question for you, Mr. Mathis. There is a constitutional amendment that is being proposed for a broad distribution of sales tax proceeds among public and independent schools. Along with that, there are some people that believe that if a public school system is failing, that public school should provide funding for that particular student to attend school in a different school district or even to attend a charter school. How do you feel about any of that?
Well, I want to fund education, definitely for that. I was raised in the public schools right here in Cochran-Bleckley County. It was Cochran High School then, and it was Cochran Elementary, then we consolidated to Bleckley County. Yes, I'm absolutely for funding education. The charter school thing, that's an old age thing. I remember back when a lot of things happened in this state back years ago, and all these private schools were coming up, probably some of the ones that you're talking about, Jessica. It threw things in a chaos, and some of the places are still reeling from the separation from the public schools to all the private schools, and I see that regularly just about right there in Macon. And so I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I want to make sure each child, and whether they're in any district in this state, I want to make sure they have access to a quality education. I think that's up to the districts, and I think it's up to the schools to do that. But it's very hard to say that I want to fund our public schools. The charter schools, I have to do a little bit more research on the charter schools because I understand that there's different kinds of charter schools. And when you throw all those together, it's very complicated because it's been very complicated from the get-go. How we fund these different, who gets this and who gets that. Even in our athletics, it even throws it in a wrench because they want to play on the public school schedule, but they want to be a private school. So we battle that. But I am 100% for funding schools. There's no doubt. Public schools, I'm for. And I want to do it the most economical way we can, so where we get the most advantage for our monies. But here's one thing too. I want to make sure that we look after our landowners. I want to look after the folks that are here. But it takes a lot more to run school systems just money. We said that it takes community, it takes the parents, it takes the superintendent, it takes the board, it takes the faculty, the staff, and we got to make sure we get all that put together. But yes, I'm for funding education on public.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mathis. All right, this is the last audience question. As a rural landowner, you have some residents that are very concerned about internet access and its effect on education and business development. Do you have a plan for providing some of that access, especially regarding, since we just talked about education, especially regarding education? Actually, Mr. Mathis goes first, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll say it again. All right, so the issue is, how do we get internet access to all of these rural areas in District 144? It's very difficult. You have various internet providers. Some of them run broadband, some of them do not. It's difficult. Houston County, Bleckley County, it is very difficult. And it does have an effect on education, business development, farmers, the list goes on and on. But specifically, how do you feel about making sure that everyone has access to the internet, especially in regards to education?
Well, it's kind of like I said, what we're going to do on 96, I'm going to get up there and know some folks in Atlanta, Georgia that have some expertise on this. And we're going to put some plans out there for them, and we're going to say, hey, we need to do this. I think that's how you do it. I think we go up there and we get to know these folks. There's plenty of money for these telecommunication companies to do this thing. We just got to make them do it. Maybe if there's some way we can to help them to entice them to want to do it, I think we can. We all have cellular phones. We all have internet. But it is a problem when you got a farmer trying to run a GPS off a farm tractor and he's out in the middle of the field and his service goes out and then all of a sudden the tractor goes off. That's not very good, is it, Andy? So we want to make sure that we get everybody going in a straight road. That's going to save us all money. So yes, I think we just need to get up there and get pressure on them. Get a group of legislators together. We get the governor together. We get together because he's mentioned that several times that we needed to expand our internet services and our cellular phone services. And it's just a matter of getting up there, getting to know these folks, and pushing it hard. because we deserve that, because once we get that done, we will be able to bring some folks, I think, back to rural areas that we all want. I really do believe that. I didn't think about that as much till several years ago, and it goes back. I know this is beating the old drum again. Once we got power in the counties, people went to the counties, but now we got to get power on the internet. We got to get cellular phones good, because this technology is taking farmers to a new level. So I'm gonna get up there, and we're gonna find out who those folks are, and we're gonna get to work.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mathis. Same question for you, Ms. Walden. How are we going to get internet access to the rural areas in District 144, especially in regards to education?
Well, I can tell you that we are not going to bridge the digital divide through handshakes and talking about it. We have got to get people who know what they're talking about with internet access in rural areas. And luckily, the House of Representatives Rural Development Council did list broadband as one of its major priorities on that. But again, it's broadband and connectivity. It's infrastructure, and another piece, the access piece. So it's not just about networking, it's about knowing the networks available to this region. This is something that's going to be revisited closely, and I'm like, put me in, coach. One of the efforts that I worked on in Bibb County and Houston County, and I even worked a little bit in Albany on this, was this program called Connect to Compete. And we began to see this have a great effect on students being able to do homework at home by coupling low-cost internet with the device that they needed to actually not have to do their homework in a cell phone in a McDonald's parking lot at midnight with their mother in the car. It's about making sure when we don't have internet at home, we have internet in our libraries, and we're even struggling with that out here in District 144. Bleckley, you have one of the worst digital divides in our region by numbers. Twigs has one of the worst digital divides. Wilkeson has one of the worst digital divides. Houston's doing pretty good. Bibb is doing better. But we're still talking about 37% of our residents not having access to internet at home. You can't apply for a job at home. You can't apply for college at home. So we've got to talk about infrastructure and how that fits into our utility system and our infrastructure in each of our individual counties. But we've also got to talk about access and affordability and the networks that provide that. Again, I feel like this is something that I have experience in. I worked from Washington, D.C. I kept taking our stories out there. And I would go up to D.C. and they would say, well, can't you just do this? And we'll give... I'm like, no, we cannot just do it this way. We don't have buses that run on Sunday in this area. We have transportation problems on top of the internet problems. And again, going back to the telemedicine, great opportunity for us in this rural health district. But we cannot have effective telemedicine if we can't get an internet signal. So I've seen some things happening with diabetes. People who have diabetes are able to use telemedicine, and they're using hotspots and creating their own networks in our community, in our rural areas. And it's being creative and inventive, but we've got to make it work. And this should remain a priority, and we need to have a person who's willing to share the stories.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walden. All right, so now it's time for closing remarks. We have talked about a whole lot of topics tonight, haven't we? We've covered a whole lot. There's really not much we haven't talked about. But I'm going to give you a chance to basically tell me tell me something that we haven't heard tonight. Is there something you want the constituents of District 144, and I'm one of them, to know? Is there something you want us to know that we haven't talked about tonight, or we haven't looked at, or you haven't been asked about?
Well, I would say something I wish we talked more about is the women's health care piece. When I got out here and started running and learning about our infant mortality rate, that is not a new problem. Zell Miller did a study on this when he was governor. And now there's a spike in maternal mortality. These are the things that are keeping me up at night that I want to be held accountable for. And honestly, I want to be held accountable for, win or lose this, because I think that this is an area that we need a strong voice and we need help in this. We're weeks away from closing out, again, what I said, one of the longest job interviews of my life. And again, I don't think you do get the job by giving your employer, by naming all the bad things about your employer and naming all the issues. I think this is, again, about our opportunities being in the heart of Georgia. and having geography on our side and having people on our side. We have that with this race. The residents, are the future employer at District 144. And I want you to know that despite what box I checked when I went up to Atlanta, and there's those who there say, what are you doing? You don't need to check this box, come over to this side. This is not about identity politics, and that's what drew me to the state race. This was where I had no idea that Representative Epps was going to be stepping down. But instead of looking out the window thinking, who needs to run, I decided to look in the mirror and thought, callings aren't convenient. But this is a time in which you as voters, we as voters, deserve choice on the ballot. I'm so sick of people telling me I held my nose to go vote. We shouldn't have to do that. And we started with 7 of us. There's down to 2 of us. I have put thousands of miles in my car. I have knocked on doors with the most incredible team. I have a hole in one of my favorite pairs of shoes from getting out there and working so hard and investing serious sweat equity into this. And this is not a fun, easy, or even rewarding job, but it's necessary. And the work that I've been able to do in the community was never always fun, easy, and necessary. It wasn't fun, easy, and rewarding, but it was necessary. And I found joy in that. And I want to find joy in working for you. We live in Twiggs County on a mountain that overlooks Robins Air Force Base and Cayman, and I can even see 475. And I look at that every day, and I want to be held accountable to the community and that I'm raising my child in by choice. And I want to make y'all proud of your local representative, and I want to make you proud of your local residents as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walden. Mr. Mathis, same thing for you. We've covered a whole lot of topics tonight. But is there anything you want to say to the constituents here for District 144, or what do you want to leave them with tonight?
I just want to say thank you. I've been overwhelmed with the support. I've been overwhelmed with the kindness. We have some real wonderful, good, hardworking people in this district, and I'm just so proud to even be at this forum to stand here in front of you and talk to you. I'll admit to you, I don't have all the answers, but I do have the willingness to do the things that we need to do. I'll call on folks that do have wisdom and have knowledge of these things. I'll call you in a heartbeat because I don't know. I want to do the right thing. A lot of these issues are so important. But I'm going to close with this. We need to vote. People got to vote. It's that critical. We're at a crossroads in this country, and we are at a crossroads in this state. We have got to get out. We have got to vote your conscience. You got to look to see what you think is the best candidate for you, that they have the values that you have. I'm a Christian. I'm pro-life. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in religious freedom. I believe in the Second Amendment. I'm going to stand on those things firmly. I'll never waver. The things that we talked about here tonight, how we'll get this done and that done, I'll be calling on you. I want you to tell me. I'll be calling on superintendents to help me with education. I'll be talking to farmers and say, tell me what we need to do. I'll be talking to folks in the logging business, and I'll say, tell me how to get that sawmill down here. I'll be talking to everybody, every mama, every daddy, every granddaddy. We'll work hard together because we got a great country. We got a great state. We got a great district. That's all I want to do. I believe it's that important. I believe it's a moral thing. I believe we're going to have to stand up for our principles, and this is critical. So if you believe in that, that's who I am, and I appreciate you both. Thank you.
All right, you guys have waited all night. Let's give these two candidates a big round of applause. Yes, they've done a wonderful job for us tonight. Thank you again to all the sponsors who made it possible, the Cochran-Bleckley Chamber of Commerce, in particular the Board of Directors. Definitely want to thank Mr. Scott Cox for his ability to come up here and give us a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. To Dr. Michael Stoy, same thing. Thank you so much for assisting us with this event. We appreciate it. To the Cochran Journal, thank you, James Tidwell, for all your help in putting it together. Calm South, powered by Hard Gray, thank you. to Kelly McWilliams, Middle Georgia State University, and our dual enrolled students that came and helped us out tonight. Don't forget, early voting starts on October 15th, and Election Day is November 6th, so make sure you go vote. Thank you for coming out tonight.